morning, YouTube. It is Tuesday, November 7th, and we are continuing the job that I finished up the other night, or wrapped up part of the other night. I've got a bunch of ducts in the back of the van, and we're going to see if we can straighten out the return static issue. I guess we'll just see how it goes. Stay tuned.
HVAC with Stephen Rardon is sponsored by TruTech Tools. Quality tools, essential support. TruTechTools.com.
Well, we've got our box of collars, Panduits, insulated metal, more insulated metal, and a bunch of flex. We're going to dive into the crawl space over here and give you a shot of that. Shut the downstairs heat off. We've got some lighting under here, but in classic North Carolina fashion, it's in the crawl door and nothing back by the unit. So this is one of the flexes that we're going to enlarge. It's a 12-inch going to the plenum back here, and they did a bang-up job of tying that to the air handler to where they covered up the door completely. So we're going to rebuild or build a new plenum, and looks like there is a light back here, but it's been gone for a while. Air handler's pretty poorly sealed. They neglected to install the little rubber grommets on the refrigerant piping. And then back here on the supply side, this duct is bridged with tape. Just tape. No sheet metal, just tape. I don't know if we're going to get a longer plenum than what's here, but we'll try to get something a little longer than was here before. Sucker's nice and tight. Not air sealed, but nice and tight. Got another 12-inch over here. And you can see the quality sheet metal work there. More tape bridging and a crap ton of mastic paint. Anyway, I'm gonna rip these flexes out and we'll take the plenum off and work on building a new plenum. So our air handler opening is 22 by 20. Start off with a 1-inch flange, 23, and 43. Yep. And another 1-inch flange, 44. 123, 43, and 44. And we'll do that twice. Cut the ends off and see if we can fold those together.
Man gets down on his knees to pray. He's been walking a long road. Have you seen my brother? He's a lot like you. He's been walking a long road. Got no money in his pockets, nowhere to lay when the sun goes down.
So if it's 22 by 20, we need to make our next piece 22 by 24.
He's just like you and me, gets down on his knees to pray. Have you seen my brother? He's a lot like you. He's been walking a long road. Have you seen
122-inch side, we're going to flange down. 120-inch side. And then on the other side, we're going to flange in.
Have you seen my brother? He's just a hard-working man. Gets down on his knees to pray. He's been walking a long road. Have you seen my brother? He's a lot like you.
While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and cut some holes in it.
He's been walking a long road. Have you seen my brother? He's been walking a long road.
One of the returns has got a double joist bay panned off, and one side of that panning has no, what do you call it? The collar for the flex doesn't so before I took that phone call, I was talking about this return panning. One side of the joist bay does not have any connection to the duct, so it's actually not helping anything. So I'm cutting a new piece for it so I can get that collar in a place where it will actually pull from both joist bays. I think I may have that sort of problem on several of these. I forgot to take one measurement because part of it is flanged and the other part goes into a piece of S-lock. So I think I'll just take the panning in as it is and then cut it as necessary once we're down there. Probably take the tape measure so I don't have to crawl back and forth too much. Once I get that figured out, probably going to cut it with the hole cutter. So I'm going to go in there and see what it looks like. So this collar is cut in for this return, and the stack head actually makes access to this joist bay, but this collar is only cut on one side. So we're going to back these out and remove that panning and hope that my new panning can go in the same hole. I measured it and I hope we're close enough. That was nice of them. They put a screw there, which covered up my screw. Do I have anything to peel that away with? There we go. It's a pry bar, it's a pair of snips. Alright. So that electrical wire is not helping anything. So it doesn't go into this bay very much, but it does go in there. So we gotta see if we can span the hole with the collar. And my joist is at 16.5 inches center, and my flange will be 23.25. $16.5, 23.25. So we're gonna set this hole for the 14 a little off center of that 16.5. Say it's right there. Scratch use this to give us a mark if we happen to snap the drill bit off. And we'll see how this goes. I think it's about time to change that drill bit. It's starting to have just a little bit of trouble doing its thing. So, where'd my snips go? 23 1/4 will be our little snip. I should have got a new pair of snips, knowing that I was going to be cutting some extra metal. These do okay cutting a long line, but they don't like to finish off the tip of the little shortcuts. And we'll take our drive, flange this piece, collar's going to end up being pretty close to the edge, but we're kind of limited. We're cutting this notch out for the joist bay, cutting it out of the insulation, and then over here we'll cut another piece out for the insulation there, and on the other end where the joist will be up against the metal, need to get rid of that extra stuff. This should be fun, trying to get this sucker to go in there. That plumbing strap is not helping me. Thank God it's got a screw in it so I can move it. We're going to see if we can make this work. You know what? I think I'm going to pull this lock off of there so I can put it on later. I may do that for both. Alright, I think we got it. Pull this off also. get some screws in there to hold it up. Definitely don't need 5-mile screws. Just enough to do it. Tucking the insulation as much as possible up over that header to try to minimize the floaty that we get out of it. I may need a real hammer here in a minute. My real hammer is over there somewhere else, so we're gonna hold off on finishing that. Well, that's pulling from both bays, a little larger from this side, a little smaller from that side. Grab my hammer to knock that over before we start screwing things down. Nicely as I wanted it to. Alright. Should be able to gob some pookie in there to get that. This side, we'll tighten that up too. We're gonna pookie the back before we throw the collar in. It's going to be a tight fit. I'm not thrilled with that, but I don't have a whole lot of choice right here. Well, this one's even worse. This little section of return has got a large portion of collar cut into it, and then over here where the majority of the return is, we've got basically nothing. This one will have to be an oval fixture, unfortunately, because I don't have any room to go that way any further. I keep hearing noises. Kind of creepy. Kind of worried as to why that part is panned also. Anyway, let's see what we can... Maybe we can take these headers out and put them in larger. Because this is another 14. And right now we've got 11 inches. And say we get 14 inches plus 10, 14 plus 10, 14 plus 10 is 24, 25 inches by 31. I think we're going to have to settle with 24 inches. 24 by 31, 24 by 31, and then the joist bay is 14 and a half. And 12 and a half. 14 and a half. I'm going to get creative and see if we can build this one in one piece. It's probably going to screw me. We've got 9 inches to the corner there. 24 by 31. Well, I've got the new headers in. I angled them back and secured them on the inside. Next I'm going to paint the flange to the wood with mastic paint. And then back here I'm going to paint in this rim here because it looks like it leaks pretty good right there. And then back there as well. And then hopefully this is straight so I can get my duct across there. It's definitely a tight fit and a little bit aggravating, but we'll see if we can make it work. That panning back there is definitely kind of pointless. For that matter, this panning here is pointless, but it is what it is. Here's another one. This one is squeezed into this tight spot for no particular visible reason. I haven't looked up inside it yet, but it looks like it's another candidate for trying to get more of the next joist bay in it. So it looks like we're changing panning metal on everything today. Like an idiot, I didn't double check my hanging strap stock in the truck, and so I don't have any. I'm pretty sure I've got some at the house, but it doesn't do me any good down here in Sanford. So I'm going to run over to the supply house and take a minute to grab a sandwich while I'm at it, and then we'll be back and wrap this up. It's going okay so far, really. I didn't really want to change the panning metal on all of the returns, but in reality there's a good possibility that that is a big part of why the return static was so high, because it was all of the returns were pulling from the small side of the joist bay panning primarily, so we've got additional restriction there. Ultimately I would have preferred that there were no joists in it, but it is what it is, and I think we're making the best of it. So I'm filthy, I'm sweaty, I'm dirty, and it's raining. That will dictate to some degree if I'm able to give the system another refrigerant charge check once we've got the airflow straightened out. But for now, we'll keep plugging away and hope that when we get back, maybe the rain will have subsided. So we'll see you in a few minutes. I had some frustration and difficulty that caused me to quit recording. One was the camera battery and all that, but I wanted to share with you the numbers once the work was complete. As you can see here, generally speaking, airflow is okay. Superheat, suction pressure, but then the head pressure was a little off and the subcooling was low. The return air temperature was too low to get a estimated airflow from the I-manifold system, but you can see that the split was pretty decent at 20 degrees. And then you can see that the static pressure was at 0.61. At 0.61 static pressure, this was the performance, and the number I want to point out is the air handler watts at 776. Once we got all of the returns replaced and enlarged, our total external was down to 0.26, which did give us a couple of degrees more temperature split. And the point that I want to make here is that the watts for the air handler were cut down to 431. The system had a target subcooling of 8 degrees, and we were able to get that refrigerant charge up to 7.4 degrees of subcooling and fall within reason on the readings there. So last night I loaded up my camera with all of the flex duct and the box of trash, and I kind of freaked out a little bit because the door on the side of the van, as soon as it opens, there's going to be a mountain of crap that falls out. But wanted to recap the end of the day yesterday, and I'm wondering if I just need to try to find a way to give video even when I'm not thrilled to be trying to capture it, because there's value in it even if I'm not thrilled about the process. It's just difficult to shoot a video when you're frustrated and things aren't going quite like you want them to. Anybody know of a cheap cameraman? But anyway, the ducting came out very nicely. I disconnected, or I pulled the disconnect on the condenser and fired the air conditioner in cooling, and the static pressure started reading a little bit, and it was reading 0.017 while it was ramping up on the enhanced blower profile. And I was really excited to see that. So I just let it run and came out at about 0.27, 0.28 on that air handler, the TAM7 air handler. You actually have higher airflow for heating on the factory profile. It's 370 CFM for cooling and 400 CFM for heating. So when I switched to heating, I was at about a 0.29, still less than half of the static that the initial testing had shown. And then I checked the wattage on the blower, and previously I think we were like 780, almost 800 watts, and after getting my static from 0.61 something down to 0.27, 0.28, my wattage almost fell in half with a 431 watt blower motor, which definitely in my mind will be a significant lowering of power bills when the only thing that changed is an old PSC motor to an ECM motor. You've got nothing else that's actually going to draw more power than there was previously, except for that blower. And 0.61 inches of static is not obscene, and generally speaking, I wouldn't think much of it. But when the customer complains of high utility bills and they've got a 3.5 ton unit on a less than 3 ton duct system, definitely less than 3 tons on the return, it's, I don't know, it seems ridiculous not to maximize potential there. And to drop the static in half just by, and honestly I think maybe the panning metal was what made the biggest difference, because now suddenly those filters are able to pull from the full filter rather than this tiny little hole in the floor. But all in all, it was a marked improvement, and I will actually be interested in going back to, you know, service these units. But I'm going to see if I can drop off this trash, and we'll check in when we go to a call later. I've got a real estate investor buying a property, and the air conditioning failed its home inspector test. So we're gonna go check that out later this afternoon. Stay tuned.